Hello, it's Machaela. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my 30th birthday video. I'm turning 30 on January 2nd and I thought about what do I want to do for a 30th birthday video, and then I thought, why not recap my 20s? My 20s were a very big time in my life and a time where there's a lot of growth and a lot of things happened, and some really amazing, beautiful, wonderful seasons, some really hard, devastating, horrible seasons. And through it all, watching Christ work in me, with me, in my family, in our dynamic, the things that we have accomplished, the things that were hard, and just giving all glory to God for it. When I turned 20, that was just, for me, a year I was like, okay, I'm an adult, but don't really feel like an adult yet. I did get engaged, so I turned 20 in 2016. And in August of that year, my husband proposed to me. It was very romantic. It was kind of comical. That's a story for another day, though. At 21, we got married in April of that year. So April of 2017, I was 21 years old, got married. And a month later, I found out that I was going to be a mother. And she's going to be 8 soon. And I can't believe that that happened that long ago. So I went throughout summer, fall of age 21 pregnant. And then at the start of age 22, which was 2018, I gave birth to my beautiful daughter, who is going to be 8 soon. And I can't believe that, like, just going through that. It was a beautiful, wonderful time in my life. I remember just going through pregnancy for the first time and loving it. I remember being a bride at 20 and 21, thinking like this was just so much fun. It was so cool. It was like I felt alive. And like my life was going somewhere, and I was just so, like, I was just in awe of how wonderful that was and that season was, and becoming a mother and just all those like milestones that I got to hit at ages 20 and 21 and 22. Age 23 came, and it was kind of a low-key year, not a whole lot going on. I later that year found out we were expecting baby number 2. So that was exciting. My oldest was 18 months old when we found out, so they've got a little bit more than a 2-year age gap between them. And then age 24 hit. This was 2020. All the craziness going on in the world. But that was the least of my problems. My husband had a brain injury due to a drug overdose. There were a lot of secrets that came out. Our world fell apart overnight. We lost everything. I lost my husband for a season. It was the first time in my life where I truly didn't know up from down, where I didn't know what was going to happen, what was going to become of my marriage. Was my marriage over? 3 years into it honestly, did nothing but help me. And it was during that season of my life that I learned some of my biggest life lessons. I learned what it truly meant to be a wife and a woman of God in the home. For a season, I had to become the head of my home. It was not something I'd asked for. It's not something I wanted, but the Lord gave me a way. The Lord provided, and the Lord provided support. The Lord provided, during all of that, counseling and a way to heal. And throughout the process of my husband's brain injury, he had been able to fully recover. And not only recover, but to repent from the things that he did put us through as a family. For a while there, things were not good. I'm not going to share all the details on that because it's not my side of the story to share, but if he'd like to come on here and share, I will let him. happily. I mean, it's all open conversation, but for the sake of this platform, I want to be respectful of the details. But he had sought forgiveness. He had made right the wrongs that I did, and he worked hard to become the best husband and the best father he could be. And to this day, that is where we are at. I watched the Lord build a broken house. I would describe it like everything burned to the ground, only to be built back up again, but better. There was a time where I was thinking nothing's going to become of our marriage, our family's not going to grow anymore, our world fell apart, and again, we didn't know what was going to happen one day to the next. And then when the Lord healed him, that was wonderful and great. And I just remember thinking, like, there's nothing that can come of this. I was 24 years old. I was 8 months pregnant at the time of his injury. I had my second baby while he was in rehabilitation, 5.5 hours away from me. I couldn't see him when his injury happened. I could not get down to where he was at because I was having a baby, and I'm so thankful that I didn't have to physically see him in that state. I didn't see him for a month later, and that was traumatizing, but I'm thankful I didn't have to see him when he wasn't basically alive, or barely hanging on by a thread. But again, the Lord had used that time in our lives to bring us closer to him, to rebuild our marriage, and to ultimately bring us to who we are today. I learned a lot in my life, what it truly means to be a wife and a mother. And so that age 24 for me was the hardest year of my life. Age 25 for me, that was 2021. We had begun to rebuild our lives. That was the year where I would describe it as a year of rebuilding. And we shortly after I turned 25, well, it was probably a couple months after, we found out we were expecting our baby boy, and he's our only baby boy. And that is so special to me because prior to us finding out we were pregnant with him, I wasn't sure if we were able to have any more children because of my husband's injury. And again, that just added to the miracles. The Lord said, that's not in my plans for you. You're having more children. And since then, we've been blessed abundantly. That year, we bought a house. Like I said, it was a year of like literal rebuilding. We went from living with my parents to being able to own a home and have another child. And that was the year where my husband was recovering and he was becoming the man of God that he is today. He was righting the wrongs that had happened, and he was able to help me recover. It was also that year, part of the rebuilding process, I would say, is learning just how broken I was. Through the counselor that the Lord put in our lives, and again, throughout that rebuilding the process, the Lord had put people in our lives to truly help heal us. And I'm not talking like, hey, we're going to do counseling for a few months and hopefully it works. No, it was a true down to the nitty gritty, ugly details, rebuilding of our lives and healing. And I had learned that I was actually showing signs of post-traumatic stress, which is also anxiety, and in my case anyway, and learning that process because of what I had been put through the year prior. Just a part of that healing journey and that rebuilding journey was learning how to heal from that. I don't want to say live through that because it's not something you live with. It's something you can heal from. To this day, would I say I still deal with a lot of that? I definitely still deal with the anxiety, and I've got a lot of that content here on my channel. I talk about it a lot. It's not something I hide, but it's a part of, I guess, I don't know if you've heard that saying, the thorn in my side. I believe Jacob talks about it in Genesis where he's got the thorn in his side, the hip, or was it Paul? It might have been Paul. My husband can comment I'll figure it out, but I think it was, no, it might have been Paul, the thorn in my side. It might have been Jacob. I'm confused. Either way, that is in the Bible, that thorn on your side. Well, for me, my thorn is my anxiety, and I have to continually give that to God each and every day and let him work through that with me. And I went from a season of my life where I couldn't walk outside of my house to now I can go and live my life again with parameters. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm like fully, I don't know if that's something that'll ever truly go away, but I'm definitely not at the point where I'm a shut-in anymore. So yeah, age 25 for me was just that year where the Lord rebuilt me, and he rebuilt my home, and he really rebuilt our lives from the literal ground upwards. You see, age 26, I felt like it was a relatively easy year. My son was a year old. We were going through, he was born November of 2021, so we were just doing his first year of life, having a new baby, and again, my one son. And that's what I think about the miracle there is he's my one son, at least up to this point. And he came at a time where I thought we weren't going to have any more kids. And not only did God bless us with another baby, but he blessed us with a son. And he is just the most wonderful, happiest sweetest little boy a mom can ask for. He's just so precious. So yeah, 26 came. It was just kind of a year where not a lot was happening. It was kind of nice. It was like a break from the chaos. And that was really good. Age 27, we found out we were pregnant with baby number 4. And that was beautiful and exciting and fun. And we were just thrilled to be growing our family. By the time I turned 28, we had gotten pregnant again. And we had gone through miscarriage. And with that miscarriage, a lot of complications with my body. I was grieving. I had to learn to grieve. This has been the first major trial since going through what I went through 4 years earlier, which was my husband's brain injury. And this hit different because this one really hit me to the core of who I was as an individual. I mean, the last trial did my husband's injury. Like, that was definitely worse, in my opinion. But just the way this hit was like, this started from within my own body and worked itself outward, whereas my husband's injury started outwards and worked his way inwards. And so it was just a different kind of grieving process. I had to learn how to live with that grief, how to go through that again. And taking the principles that I knew from going from my husband's brain injury and taking those same principles and applying them to my miscarriage and the things that I had learned and the faith that I had grown in during that time in my life and be able to apply it again. So this was like a test in a way to see, like, where is my faith during this season of grief. And I had gone through a lot at that point. And my husband, I remember just watching him, like, not knowing how to help me, but doing everything he could. I mean, in my eyes, he handled everything so perfect. And I feel like this was, like, one of those opportunities for him, like, okay, show your wife, and the Lord just instilling that in him to be there for me in the way that I needed, in a way that he needed to truly carry me through this thing that none of us understood what I was going through. And I have a whole playlist on my channel, so I'm not going to get into all the details here, but I will leave it listed down below. But this was just going through that took so much out of me, physically, emotionally. And I remember just not being okay at all during that season of my life. I'm able to look at it a year later, and I'm like, but what a blessing that was, though. Like, even though I went through that pregnancy loss, what a blessing that was to be able to carry that life. Even though it was a short time, I got to carry that life in me. I got to experience that life. And it's something that only I got to experience with the Lord. And I've gotten to do that with all of my children, but with this life specifically, this was between me and the Lord. And I'm the only person on this planet who got to experience who that little life was. And though my family knew, and yes, my children grieved, like, I'm not knocking the fact that my husband had to grieve, my children had to grieve, my children were excited. And I feel like that was a huge part of navigating that loss, is learning how to navigate them through it when I didn't even know what I was going through myself. And my husband having to take on the roles because I just couldn't. But what a blessing that I got to experience that. I don't want to go through it again. I'm each and every day I pray that the baby that we have now is okay. But I'm able to look on that a year later and say, like, this truly was a blessing, even though at the time it was painful. And I can say the same thing about my husband's injury. That time in my life truly was a blessing in my life, even though at the time I didn't feel like it. And I wouldn't trade any of the things that I've gone through, any of the trials that I've gone through, because I look at what the Lord did in my life, and I look at how He grew me and how He helped me through. And I look at the blessings from that, and like, how much have I grown because of those times? And though I don't want to go through them again, nor do I want to go through anything like them again, I'm thankful that they happened. If I had the opportunity to trade those seasons, I wouldn't trade them. And that's what's so beautiful about those trials, and the fact that the Lord is by my side, holding my hand each and every step of the way. Sometimes I don't feel Him. Sometimes I'm like, where are you, Lord? And sometimes I'm just angry and my emotions are out of control, but He's still with me. And He's still with my family, and He's holding my family, and He's carrying my family, and He's either equipping me for the next thing, or going through those seasons, He's brought other people into my life to help get me through those seasons of my life. And I not one time had to go through even the most devastating parts of it alone. Even though there were times that I did feel like I was alone, I never had to go through that alone. And that's the blessing, and that's the faith building, and that's, like, I see the Lord working through that, and I'm in awe of that. And I'm like, how much more is that building my faith for the future? Or how much did the trial from my husband's brain injury prepare me for the trial of going through pregnancy loss? And I just remember earlier that year, the first 6 months of being 24 was wonderful. My husband and I, our marriage was growing. Our marriage was great. We were thriving. And later that year, I think a part of that was the Lord preparing us to go through that season of heartbreak and trial and loss, and just having to go through that. But blessings, the Lord prepared us prior for that, so that when the season of pregnancy loss came, our marriage was not affected. We were not negatively impacted by our marriage. We were strong. And another blessing I would say is nobody got sick the last year. I remember thinking, like, okay, Lord, 6 seasons upon us, what are we gonna do? And Lord's like, not this year. We've gone through it a few times this year, but it didn't happen while we were all down to where I feel like the Lord gave us a break. And I want to actually point that out too, that when I was pregnant with baby number 2 and my husband was in rehab and he had his brain injury, that postpartum season, that's where I feel like the Lord said, this is where your break is. That postpartum season was probably my easiest postpartum season, and I feel like that was just the Lord's way of saying, here's your break. You've gone through enough. Let's make this part easy for you. And adjusting to baby number 2 when not having my husband with me was that was a huge blessing, to have not had to go through a bunch of crazy wild postpartum stuff. So that was nice. Well, 29 on the day I am filming this. I am still 29 years old for about a day and a half. I would say 29 started off rough, learning how to live with pregnancy loss, learning how to live with grief. I definitely feel like I've gone through a lot of emotions this year, a lot of hard emotions this year. I feel like I've grown a lot as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as an individual. And I feel like I've gone through, some of my anxiety stuff has come back up, and I've had to learn how to work through that and give it to the Lord and utilize what the Lord has taught me over the last 5 years of going through things and working through the anxiety. Again, I feel like that's always going to be the thorn in my side. I just continually have to give it to the Lord. But to go through that, it was definitely a lot. On Father's Day weekend, we found out we were expecting again. And I remember that was just a huge relief because we were all still going heavily through the loss. And I went through, I think part of being 29 was also going through a season of longing to have a baby in my arms, whether it was the baby that we lost or whether it's the baby that's coming, but going through that season of longing and just having to trust that the Lord knew what my desires were. He knew what our home needed. He knew what I as an individual needed and what my husband needed and what my children needed. And so when we found out we were expecting, it was just like we were jumping for joy. We were so excited. And I think that throughout this pregnancy, it's been a pretty good pregnancy. I feel like, there's always going to be that little like twinge of, is baby okay? And everything right now is pointing to the fact that baby is okay. I feel like the Lord is constantly reassuring me that baby is okay. And I just keep praying that baby continues to be okay. And when we get to meet her at the start of next year, that she is, my prayer is that she is healthy. If not, that's just another thing that we're going to have to allow the Lord to work and speak life into us and work through with us. My desperate prayer is that she is okay, but to know that if she is not, to trust that the Lord's got us under control and has the situation under control, but to continue to pray that everybody in my home is okay and healthy and well. And again, to know that if not, and I struggle with this a lot. I don't say this without struggling with it. This is like one of my biggest struggles is I fear somebody in my home not being okay. And to know that if that is the case, that the Lord's going to get us through it, just like he got us through my husband's injury and all the chaos that went with that. And he got us through the miscarriage, and he'll get us through whatever's next. But as of right now, as I am ending age 29, I am hopeful for age 30. I am ending it on a note where my heart is full of joy and singing and dancing, and well, maybe not singing and dancing. I can't sing and dance worth a darn, but just I'm feeling a leap for joy. And as I'm speaking about life, this little life is moving and letting mommy know she's here. And so I just, what a blessing, what a blessing to have such a hard year last year, and that went into the first half of this year. And then even then, like, I feel like I just went through just the emotional side of things. This year was just a lot of like up and down. I feel like I've gone through a lot of anger in myself this year. I've had to work through a lot of that, but I also feel like because of that, I've also grown in a lot of ways that are healthy and well and good, and to know that that certain things are, like it's okay to have certain emotions so long as I'm able to give them to the Lord. And so as long as I am able to have those emotions in a way that is right and according to God's word and not my own way. But I have grown a lot as an individual, especially over the last 6 months or so. But I feel like just getting to end 29 years old and end my 20s on a note where I am truly at a place where I feel like I've got joy in my heart and I'm truly happy. I'm just going into this like I'm just genuinely happy right now. And to know that that's how I get to end my 20s. Like, what a blessing. What a blessing to end my 20s knowing that this is where we're starting 30 at. And so I'm excited. I'm saying goodbye to my 20s. I can't believe how fast it went. I can't believe, like, I went through major, major highs in my life, and I've been through major, major lows, major blessings, major trials, major things. I mean, all things ended in blessings. Like, all the trials I went through ended in blessings. But also I went through seasons where there was just a lot of joy in my life and a lot of, like, good things happening. And when the seasons got hard, the Lord was there. And I feel like the Lord was there through my community, and the Lord put people in my life and put community in my life to help me through. He put those people in my life to help me sing and dance during the joyous seasons, and who were there to help pull me through the hard ones as well. And I feel like that's just a continual thing. I feel like even though when you go through hard seasons, the Lord's going to place people in your life to help you get through them, and people who are equipped to go through specifically what you're going through. And when you're in joyous seasons, the Lord's going to give you people to celebrate with you. And when you're in seasons of loneliness, That's where you go to the Lord and say, I need you, and allow Him to provide. I went through some extremely lonely times. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. My 20s, I went through some extremely lonely, devastating times. And that's when the Lord said, we're going to get through this. And it did have to come with the Lord exposing a lot of things that were not fun to be exposed, but that were necessary so that I could properly heal. So there were times where I was truly lonely, but it was in those times that the Lord was helping me get through them, and the times where the Lord was saying, it's not my way to do this alone. We have to share these things so that I can then help you heal from these things that you are feeling so lonely from. I don't believe that our God of the universe is a God of loneliness. I believe that there are seasons where He allows us to be alone and He puts us in a quiet place so that He can speak to us through His still small voice. But I also believe that the Lord equips us for those times, and the Lord doesn't make us go through things alone. During those times where He does have us in a place where we feel more lonely, or when we are alone, when the Lord is doing that, He is preparing us. He's not only preparing us, I think, for things to come, but He's speaking to us in a still small voice, and He's getting ready to expose the things in our lives that need to be exposed, so that we can then heal from them properly. Maybe that made sense. I don't know. I had my train of thought and I completely got distracted there. I'll call my husband back in a minute, but I really do want to finish this video first. But again, my 20s, that was my 20s. Many blessings, many good and exciting and joyous seasons, and many very hard seasons. And I guess 30, here we come. I'm going to continue to trust in the Lord with all my heart and not lean on my own understanding. And when the times come that I feel burdened, heavy laden, I will lay it at His feet and He will give me rest. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you to my friends and my family who got me through my 20s, and to my husband for sticking through things with me, even though there were some hard times, and my children who are just a wonderful blessing that just came through all of this, and at the various perfect seasons that the Lord provided for them to come in. And I'm truly blessed. I really am. I'm truly blessed. So I guess welcome to 30. I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.